Sports City, Sports City, Chefs, Chefs, Sports City, Chefs, Chefs. Yeah. Cavi, Taj.
Yes, this is the villain. Welcome to another edition of Finger Foods on the Sports City Chefs YouTube channel. Subscribe and hit the like button if you like what you hear. You'll get more content. We'll get the algorithm going, and you'll get more of the villain. You'll get more of the chefs. You'll get more of Sports City. So I took the time to want to talk about the New York Giants. I figured it's been a couple days. I'm calm. Now that I'm calm, everything's good. Now I can talk to you about how the New York Giants blew the game on Thursday Night Football, which a lot of people are saying was a great game, but it's only great if you win the game. The Giants losing to the Washington football team 30-29 on a last-minute field goal to lose the game in the final seconds. Listen, I said in the last podcast that I had on Sports City Chefs YouTube channel, it was going to be a long season, and I was right. But listen, there was some good and there was a lot of bad, so I'll unpack it right now. Starting with the good, a couple days after another fumble and another up and down performance, Daniel Jones probably turned in one of his best games as a pro, going 22 of 32 for 249 yards, passing touchdown, and added 95 yards rushing and a rushing TD. So it was good to see him play mistake-free football, one of the few games that he doesn't have a turnover. Didn't do an interception, didn't fumble the ball, didn't lose a fumble. So he played pretty well. I thought the offensive line held up fairly well. I think Daniel Jones got a lot of pressure on him at points in the game. But Daniel Jones stood in the pocket tall, made throws down the field, found open receivers. Listen, another good game, 2 in a row for Sterling Shepard, 9 catches, 95 yards. Didn't get in the end zone, but he had another solid performance. I think the Giants do need to find a way to get Kenny Galladay involved in the offense. I think Garrett has to find some creative ways, which is hard to come by for him because he's not really a creative offensive coordinator. But listen, you can't have your number one receiver only getting 3 catches for 38 yards. That's just not going to cut the mustard. So they got to find ways to get him involved in the offense. Saquon Barkley, a couple days off of his first game in over a year, had a nice game. Finished with 57 yards rushing and 4 yards a carry. He showed some burst, showed some quickness, hit the hole, had a nice long run early in the game. So I think the more he gets more he gets playing, I think the better he's going to get going down the stretch. And I talked about the offensive line as well. This is one of the few days where you didn't hear a lot of Andrew Thomas. So here's a news flash for you kids. I played offensive line all through my football career up until high school. If you don't say and you don't mention an offensive lineman's name, that means they had a good game. And I didn't mention Andrew Thomas a lot. So listen, Chase Young got after Daniel Jones a little bit in the game, but for the most part, I think Chase Young was pretty much contained, and you can thank Andrew Thomas for that. I thought the offensive line as a whole played well. Prayers up to Gates. He was voted captain this year, one of the leaders on that team, and went down with a horrific leg injury. I saw a video of him walking today after surgery, so that's a good sign for him, but obviously lost for this season. Hopefully Nick Gates can come back and resume his career. They said it was a complete break in his leg, so you don't want to see that happen. But for the most part, they held it together and played pretty well on offensive line. But again, mistakes and points left on the table kind of doomed this team. I could count a lot of times where the Giants left points on the board were in the first quarter when they were driving down the field, getting close to the green zone, as Tom Coughlin used to call it, the red zone. And then they took I think it was a penalty and a sack that knocked them out of field goal range, and they lost the points, had to punt it away. Then you're talking about, obviously, the holding call called on C.J. Board down the field on a long Daniel Jones run that took off a touchdown off the board. Arguably, you could argue that it was or was not holding, but nevertheless, the referees called it. The touchdown came back, and they had to settle for a field goal on that drive. Then, obviously, the big talk of the Thursday night game was blown coverage where Darius Slayton was wide open down the field and dropped a touchdown catch. It was off his hands. Another set of points, 7 points taken off the board. And then, obviously the big gaffe at the end where Dexter Lawrence was offsides on the game-winning attempt by Hopkins. And then you looked at the replay. It's very close. I think when he moved, the ball started to move. But it's such a, by the naked eye, it looks like he went offsides. So they called it. They kicked, and Hopkins ended up missing that kicked it again, nailed it, game over, drive home safely. It's stuff like that, especially on the road when you're a 0-1 team, now 0-2. It's stuff that kills you. It kills you as a team, and it kills your momentum. I mean, this is the 5th straight year that the New York Giants have started the season 0-2. I think it's 8 out of the last 9 years they started 0-2. It's just a disgrace for a team that has been to Super Bowls and won 4 of them. The Giants have got to get it together. And then, last but not least, the defense was horrid. I think the biggest problem, other than the missed tackles, was the lack of pass rush. I said it last week against the Broncos. They did not get any pressure on Teddy Bridgewater, and that happened again. Taylor Heinicke, I think making his 4th start as a starter, or 4th game in the pros, one of the two, was sitting in the pocket, comfortable. I think other than an early pressure by the rookie, and where they got a sack to end their first drive of the game, Heinicke was under no duress for the whole game. They got no pressure on him. I think the experiment with the defensive ends have not worked. Gettleman did not address that position in the draft where they had the ability to draft some linemen in the first round, or maybe trade up. They didn't. They waited till the second round to get the kid from Georgia who I like, but it's not enough. And it kind of left the secondary exposed again. Bradbury had a really bad game against one of the better receivers, Terry McLaurin. McLaurin had 11 catches for 107 yards and a touchdown. Bradbury was flagged on a holding call in the fourth quarter as well. Just couldn't hold up against him. Part of it was zone coverage that he was in, but a part of it was McLaurin was just abusing him. Bradbury did make up for it with an interception late in the game that should have turned the tide and should have closed the game out for the New York Giants. But again, questionable play calling. Listen, you should run the ball inside the 30 with about 2 minutes left in the game, make them use their timeouts. But then they didn't hit the third down pass. The clock stopped. They had to settle for a field goal instead of being aggressive and going into the end zone on that drive. They wanted to be conservative and run the clock. Okay. There's two trains of thought on that, but then, it allowed them to come right back down the field and score to set up a field goal that eventually won the game. And then you're talking, I think the Giants had got a field goal to go up 10 points, and then 2 plays later, the Washington football team is in the end zone. First on a long pass by McKissick, and then a nice touchdown pass in the corner by Heinicke to get quick 7 points right back on the board. I mean, it's just unexcusable how the defense played, and they could not get any stops. And on to week 3, where they face the Falcons team that was almost left for dead in the game today against the Tampa Bay Bucks. The offense came to life. That's not going to be good for the Giants. Ridley had a good game. Kyle Pitts showed up. Matty Ice played a pretty solid game. So now it's on the Giants. Fix the mistakes. I saw a lot of good things out of the offense. Saw a lot of bad things on the defense, things that are correctable. Make plays, get a win, get in the win column, and move on. Thanks for listening to another edition of Finger Foods with the Villain on the Sports City Chefs YouTube channel. Again, subscribe, hit the like button if you like what you see. More content is on the way. Get to the website. We got the blog, we got the interviews, we got podcasts all over. If you like what you hear, keep on listening. On that note, tell a friend to tell a friend. It's the chefs again. If you don't know, now you know.
Sports City, Chefs, Chefs, Sports City, Chefs, Chefs. Yeah. Cabby, Taj.